Will your master's degree matter in the long run? Well, today we're talking all about master's degrees so you can be best prepared to decide if a master's degree is worth it for you. Now, generally, a master's degree is a degree that most people get after their bachelor's but before their PhD, though that's not always 100% how it goes. Generally, master's degree can be as short as 8 months to as long to 3 and 4 years. It all depends on what field you are on. And depending on your field, a master's degree may be the highest level of education you can get. But do you need a master's? Now, there are hundreds of thousands of reasons why somebody would want to get a master's, and they range anywhere from professional to financial to personal. But generally, I think most people get their master's degree for 3 main reasons. 1, they want to improve or change their career. 2, they want to enter into research and either pursue independent research or get a PhD. And 3, they want more money. While any master's can help in all of these categories, master's degrees are a little tricky because there are a lot of different types of masters. And if you don't select the correct master for your goal, then you may not actually even achieve what you're setting out to do, and then instead accrue thousands and thousands of dollars in student loan debt. Now, generally, there are about 3 different types of masters. There's research masters, there's professional masters, and then there's terminal masters. A research master's is just what the name would suggest. They are a master's degree where the main focus is to give you training in research or research experience. Most people that pursue a research master's oftentimes are interested in getting a PhD, though that's not always the case. Now, while it won't be necessarily the case for everybody that they're getting this degree to get a PhD, I will say almost no research masters will be terminal, meaning in order to reach the highest level of education, you're going to have to pursue a PhD. And that makes things tricky because if you're interested in getting a research-based job, or if you're interested in becoming a professor, there's going to be some limitations. In relation to research jobs, you're going to be competing with PhD students. Now, this doesn't mean you'll never get that job or it's impossible. Quite the contrary, completely is possible, but it will require a little bit more work and a little more finesse when you are applying to these jobs. And as for getting a professorship, it's most likely going to be impossible to do that at a research one or large institution. Instead, you may have to stay at smaller institutions, but it is super uncommon to get a full professorship position with a non-terminal master's degree. So that is something to be hyper aware of. Now, like I said, most people pursue research masters because they want to become PhDs. They want to do independent research. And so they think it is the first step to being able to pursue that goal. But it's actually not necessary. Most universities in the United States do not require you to have a master's before applying to your PhD. And oftentimes, even if a master's is required for you to get your PhD degree, it most likely will be integrated into the curriculum of the PhD program. So while you are pursuing or gaining your career as a PhD student, you are also simultaneously accruing credits and curriculum of a master's degree. And so when you graduate, you will graduate with both a master's and a PhD. Now, of course, that's not every program, and it's important to make sure you're looking into the details of your field and your discipline and your program, but it is super common in the US to not need a master's in order to get a PhD. And this is significant because master's degrees generally are pretty hard to fund. There's just way more funding for PhD students and PhD research. Now, this doesn't mean it's impossible to fund, but it does mean that you might end up in a situation where you have to take out student loans or depend on financial support of working multiple jobs, of people around you, of support systems to be able to get through your research masters. Now, again, if the goal is just to get a PhD, you may be able to skip that whole process altogether and just apply straight to PhD programs so you can start working on your research as soon as possible. However, if you're more interested in understanding how student loans work, how finding grants work, or just graduate funding altogether, I do have a graduate funding playlist that I will link in the description, but also in the end screen that you can head to after this video so you can see all of my videos about grad funding, though research degrees will again have a little bit more funding than other master's programs, specifically in comparison to a professional master's degree. Professional masters are often master's degrees that people get in order to improve their career or to change their careers completely. So that means they are oftentimes way less research-based, and instead in their curriculum, they're going to incorporate more practicum, internships, and real-world hands-on experiences. And this is important because if you're trying to establish yourself within a particular industry or a career, it is important to have working experience that will translate into your job applications. Professional masters are actually really wonderful programs because they work really hard to help prepare their students to be as ready for the workforce as possible. However, it is important to say not all professional degrees are made equally. Many institutions, especially for-profit institutions, may be more interested in recruiting and admitting a lot of students rather than working on their curriculum and giving their students the resources and support to reach their goal. Now, this isn't to say that all for-profit universities are bad and all traditional schools are good, but rather it is trying to let you know that you need to be very explicit about what you're hoping to get out of that program and how they can help you. So something that you can do to make sure that this professional master's is best for you is to try to figure out who are their alumni and see where are they working on LinkedIn, on Google, on Indeed. And if their career path is not aligned to where you want to be, then that place may not have the resources, curriculum, or support that you are looking for to get you to wherever your goal is. Also, if you are interested in a professional master's to be career focused, you should do a lot of research into what is the curriculum, what are their resources, programming, initiatives, to make sure they are exactly or closely aligned to what you are pursuing. Again, because this is about hands-on experiences and practicum, if you go into a master's degree that is training you in something completely disconnected from what you want, then you're not most likely going to be able to pursue the job you want. And so they can be a little precarious in the sense that they are so specific that sometimes if you're not doing the pre-research or the prior research to be prepared, you may end up in a situation where you have a master's degree, but it doesn't translate into your real world goals in the way that you were hoping. In other cases, some professional masters are just super straightforward and you know you have to get them in order to advance in your field. Specifically, if you are somebody within business, if you're thinking about an MBA. However, if you're somebody in a field where a professional master's may not be required or not even common, it's important to also make sure that you're able to communicate how your master's is giving you real world experiences. Because if you aren't able to do that, or if your master's isn't giving you that information when you are applying, if your job is not really interested in master's degrees, you will be competing against people who have graduated with just bachelors that have used that time of you in grad school to get real world working experiences. And depending on your field, they may prefer people with working experience over educational experience. So in this case, again, making sure that you are able to communicate how this master's makes you best prepared for this position is a great way to make sure that you are competitive in any job field, independent of what your master's may be in. Now, like I said a little bit earlier, professional masters are almost never funded, and this can be a real barrier to you pursuing higher education and even being able to enroll. Now, for a lot of us, we may have to take out student loans in order to take our professional master's degree. However, if you're somebody who's feeling intimidated or unsure about that, I have 2 videos in my grad funding playlist all about student loans so you can be best prepared to know what are the details of it and what are your options when it comes to graduate student loans. Now, I also think it's important to say that sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between professional masters and research masters, especially if you are in the humanities field. Now, a good rule of thumb to remember is that research masters most likely are going to be in traditional colleges or traditional schools in the university. So like history, art history, anthropology, sociology, and the list goes on. While professional masters may have more cool or new or catchy names like the College of Professional and Liberal Studies or the College of Liberal Arts and Forward Thinking. And so it's important to just make sure that you're paying attention to where that degree is housed and who are the faculty that are working in it. A lot of times, most research faculty are going to be in a research program, and professional masters most likely will be made up of a bunch of different faculty from a bunch of different departments. So that can also help you figure out which one is which, even when they seem closely connected. Terminal degrees are great because they're the highest level of education you can get, meaning after that master's, you're done. You have reached the apex of your discipline, and in turn, you are able to go work in the professional field, you are able to teach as a professor, and you are able to go forth as like a fully realized academic. Not to mention, terminal degrees are also the master's degrees that are going to have the most amount of funding and support. However, there are not a lot of terminal degrees. If you're not interested in an MBA, an MFA, or if you're not an architecture student, the likelihood of your degree being a terminal degree is probably not very common. Now, this isn't to say that I know everything about terminal degrees, but I do think it's important just to say that if you are somebody who wants to get a terminal degree, just to make sure that it is in the field that you are interested in and that you are eligible to do it. Now, terminal degrees will train you both for professional and academic teaching and generally are well-rounded programs. But again, they're not very common. So before you go to apply to a master's program, just make sure that you are 100% sure that it is a terminal degree before you pursue it, so you don't end up getting a master's when you should have got a PhD or a different degree altogether. Now, would I say that master's programs are worth it? Well, it's kind of hard to say because it comes down to you and your personal goals and what is worth it to you. And what burdens are you willing to take financially, emotionally, and time-wise? Now, of course, there are other things that go into you making the decision about which program is best for you and how would you fund your program. So if you're interested in trying to figure out which program is best for you, I would check out this video next. If you found at least 2 things useful, hit the thumbs up so YouTube will share this video with others who might need it. And as always, your support helps a small YouTuber like me continue to grow. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.